Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and it appears that we have another Hollywood celebrity standing against the wokeness and idiocracy of Hollywood in recent years. And it's an actor that I very much respect and really enjoy, from a myriad of his roles all the way back from Doctor Who, his Spider-Man, especially in the most recent film, and Tick Tick Boom was actually a quite incredible film with a quite incredible performance. He is a true thespian despite his youth, and it seems very uncommon for people of his generation in the acting community to be as dedicated as he is to being a great actor. And he truly is a great actor. So his opinion holds sway here because he understands the complexities of character acting above a lot of these other Hollywood pretenders that just play themselves over and over again or play blocks of wood and get praised for it. Brie Larson. But it's just some great comments here that we're going to break down that are in response to Ian McKellen's comments, which I actually made a video about as well, which will be linked above. And his comments were incredible as well. He had a great interview altogether, all about like being gay in the 40s, being having his father, what would his father think about it, and the difference between today and more archaic traditions. And that's just a really great interview to go over. And Andrew Garfield weighs in with some incredible follow-up comments that really lend towards Ian McKellen's, and together they make quite a good picture. But we got this article here from Bound in Comments that breaks it down quite well for us. Andrew Garfield weighs in on Hollywood casting practices, warns about the death of imagination, and the way he puts it is so well. I really think he should be a writer because he really crafts some really good words in this article, in this interview. But it's all surrounding whether or not actors can play gay characters or characters that they aren't. The gay characters is just the umbrella one that seems to be the focus of conversations like these, but there's also, should a Gentile be allowed to play a Jewish person, or the other way around? Can a gay person play a straight person? It's just, unless you 100% match the character playing, are you allowed to do it? Like the Miss Marvel situation. Her best friend in Miss Marvel, the Miss Marvel show, is of Islamic heritage, but is not Islamic faith. And these people took issue with that because she doesn't 100% match the character she's playing. And I don't find an issue with that. As long as the superficials match to a good enough degree and there's not a political a message behind the casting or political motivation behind the casting, I'm totally fine with it being totally different as a backstory, because they are pretenders fundamentally. Now, if there might be certain roles that if you have experience in something, it might lend credence to, like Keanu Reeves being an expert with his weaponry. He is an expert on guns. That makes John Wick very believable, but isn't necessarily a requirement. Like stuff like that, I can agree. There can be some give and take, and depending on different roles, there could be different requirements. But having blanket statements like what Hollywood is propagating when it comes to gay characters or Jewish characters, it's going to be the death of imagination, just as Andrew Garfield puts it here so poignantly. But Spider-Man No Way Home and Hacksaw Ridge actor Hacksaw Ridge is incredible as well. Andrew Garfield recently weighed in on Hollywood's current casting practices and the discussion surrounding whether or not certain actors can play certain roles. And it goes over a lot of different types of roles that you can take, but a gay character seems to be the central focus. Speaking with the Telegraph about his latest film on Netflix, Tick Tick Boom, which I cannot recommend enough, Garfield was asked about Hollywood's casting practices and whether or not straight actors can play gay characters. And he toes the line very well here. Like he appeases the woke crowd to his best degree while having a different opinion. And he balances it very well, very much similar to how I personally believe on a situation like this. And he just does it perfectly. He responded, I think it's two different conversations being conflated. And that's very much a thing with wokeness, is they combine completely separate arguments and make them the same one and just make it difficult to have a conversation with them, because they'll pull a different argument out of left field and say, oh, that means this. It's like, no. That's completely separate. I can dislike Star Wars without hating women. They're not mutually inclusive terms. It's like, no, you just hate The Last Jedi because you hate women. You hate Rey. It's like, well, that's because of writing. I can dislike something without it being racially or sexually motivated. That's an example of them bringing in completely separate arguments and tying them together and infusing them together where people can't have mature arguments and mature debates about different creative endeavors. And so by making the distinction, he's able to say, hey, yeah, representation, very good. Creativity and imagination, very important. So he really balances it very well. One is about equality of opportunity, and completely in with that, absolutely, because we should want a world in which no matter your sexual orientation, your color, or your heritage, everyone gets a fair whack. And yes, absolutely. And it's a very mild way of putting it that is enough for a lot of these woke people, but still is the people who have been burned by wokeness still agree with this. And a lot of people don't understand that, is that people like me still 100% agree that representation is important, but it's about method, motivation, and execution where we differ from these woke people, and ideology as well, of course. But the other is about empathic imagination, and if we allow people to be cast as exactly who they are, it'll be the death of it, he asserted. And yeah, he's an actor, so he's learned to pretend to be things he's not, pretend to be people he's not. And I don't see him as, the depressed creative that he was in Tick Tick Boom. He's not that sort of all over the place person, but because of his empathic imagination, he was allowed to imagine himself as that person with those issues, and it made an incredible performance that people related to on such a fundamental level. But that's dead if you have to play yourself. Garfield then added, so the two separate conversations have to happen simultaneously, because I'm not willing to support the death of empathic imagination, because that's the death of creativity. That's the death of good stories. That's the death of Hollywood. It's the death of book writing. It's the death of every creative endeavor, because without empathic imagination, you can't relate to any character. And without relating to characters, stories are empty and pointless. They are. And so without empathic imagination, his whole life is meaningless. And all these other actors, their lives are meaningless. All these other writers and these people who are destroying empathic imagination in this industry don't realize that they're destroying the very foundation of their livelihood. And it's so ironic to see them do that to themselves, but also so refreshing to see someone like him point out that irony and have a good opinion on that situation. It's what we need most as a culture, and it's beautiful. It's the only thing that's going to save us right now. Yes, and stuff like that has a very good application to the real world, but not in a heavy-handed baseball bat political message type of way that a lot of Hollywood uses these days. It's very much, hey, if I can learn to relate to this person in this movie, maybe I can learn to relate to this person in real life. That is a good message. That is a good way of putting together a story without it being, ooh, this is my opinion, and if you don't have it, you're bad. It's like, no, just try to understand. You don't have to agree, but just try to understand. That is always going to be a good stance, no matter your political or social opinions, as long as it's like, hey, I don't need you to agree with me. I just need you to understand. And that's a big thing with this empathy that he's talking about, empathic imagination. You can imagine yourself being emotionally in a similar situation. And that's what makes some of the greatest actors, and that's what makes some of the greatest people in real life, those who can imagine themselves in different emotional states in different people's shoes, per se. And yes, it's 100% something that is very important to our society as a whole, and we're losing it because Hollywood is losing it, because a lot of people don't see it done professionally, so they don't understand it to the same degree that they could. Obviously, some people have very good instincts for that, so it's never going to go away completely, but our society needs more of it in the real world as much as it needs more of it in Hollywood, and that's why so much of this is so important. That's why this culture war is so important, because it is the soul of a society, is their entertainment and their stories that they build their culture off of. Garfield's comments are similar to recent comments by Ian McKellen, and yeah, breaking down his deal with his friend Helen Mirren playing a Jewish person despite not being Jewish, and he's saying that's totally fine. And he brings the argument back on himself because, unfortunately, as being a gay man, he's allowed to have these opinions, which sucks that he has to be that way. But they are still great opinions that everyone should share, that they're great opinions. And it sucks that his orientation is the only thing that makes people listen to him, but it doesn't change the fact that they're good statements. Especially here is the argument that a straight man cannot play a gay part, and if so, does that mean I can't play straight parts and I'm not allowed to explore the fascinating subject of heterosexuality in Macbeth? And I can imagine his character wasn't gay per se in Tick Tick Boom, but he had to do a lot of that empathic imagination like he was talking about to explore the homosexuality of Tick Tick Boom. And so yeah, they just both had some really great comments, and it's just breaking down some of these other things in Hollywood that don't respect empathic imagination, don't respect other actors playing different roles to put themselves in a different situation and play a role to such a great degree that these two thespians are able to accomplish. And so, yeah, it's really great to hear such good comments from such a young man and from Ian McKellen as well. And I really hope that more actors can stand up and say stuff like this, because they are destroying their industry. They're destroying their way of life if they continue down the path that most of these Hollywood pretenders are going down. So it is so vital that people like him stand up against it, because then there's no more creativity. And that is what stories are based off of. And so you can't be in a story-driven industry if you destroy creativity. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.